Hi everyone and welcome to the Desteni I Process live Google Hangout. We host Hangouts here on the Desteni I Process channel every week, every Thursday. And at the moment we are continuing with our series on family, transforming family dynamics. We started the series off last week with a really cool Hangout. I definitely suggest to go and check that out. We'll put a link to the whole playlist of all the videos in this series in the description of the YouTube video once this live recording has been uploaded. So I definitely suggest to go and check that out. In this Hangout today, we're going to be talking about the desire, you could say, to be a perfect mother and a perfect wife, which is something that many women can relate to, this almost anxiety to be perfect for everyone, be perfect for your family, and how that can go into a lot of worry and a lot of anxiety, and how you can actually support yourself with the Desteni tools and with the Desteni I process to stop this pattern and see what you can discover within and behind it. As always, you're welcome to ask questions here on the live Hangout. If you're watching the recording of the Hangout and it's not live anymore, you can put your question on the YouTube comments below the YouTube video, and we'll make sure to answer your questions. To ask a question or put a comment, you have to click where it says be part of the conversation if you're watching here live on YouTube, and that will take you to our Google Plus page where you can then type in your question and we will share it here on the Hangout. So to discuss this topic, I have invited two lovely ladies with me here today. We have Sandy from Canada. Hi, Sandy.
Hi.
Hi. And then we have Barbara with us from Germany. Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
And unfortunately, we couldn't get Barbara's camera functioning today, so she'll be joining us via audio, which should be fine. All right, so ladies, let's get straight into it. I'd like if you could start with describing how this pattern, you could call it a pattern of wanting to be the perfect wife and the perfect mother, being perfect for everyone in one's family. How is that something that you've experienced for yourself in your own life? Let's start with you, Sandy.
I'd say it started immediately when I got married and had children, and I see it equally today. So that has, I think there's a lot of, to begin with, because say you just have your baby, I wanted to be perfect certainly for my little baby, but there would be some competition there, say with the other new mothers. I certainly felt that. A lot of my friends had babies at the same time, and even within purchasing things. So it started even then, who's got the good stroller and who's, what kind of crib did you get? It started even then that I felt a lot of comparison and competition. So even just starting in babyhood.
Interesting. And how about you, Barbara? How have you experienced this unfold in your life?
It actually started already as a child with my brother. I got into a competition mode where I wanted to be perfect for my mom, so she didn't have so much to worry about, not worrying about me, because my brother was really active, and so I was the good, perfect girl, the one who always did everything perfectly in the eyes of my mom in comparison to my brother. And so I always had whatever I did, always had my eye on my brother, and it was against this backdrop that I acted, and I considered everything I did. And later, when I got married, that was strangely a very similar constellation, because my husband had been just divorced, and I took the image or the of how I saw that ex-wife of his as a comparison picture within me, and I yeah, always wanted to be better than her, the better wife for my husband, and I made that out to be my perfection mode. So I never got angry at my husband and placed him into my focus. And I wanted to be perfect for him and arranged everything so that he would be in the middle of my life, the main focus, which he didn't have with his ex-wife. So there was, yeah, this backdrop of the divorce situation. And then with my children also, I wanted to be the better parent even. So I compared myself to my husband, now ex-husband, and I, yeah, I had back chats about my ex, of course.
How do you mean? How do you mean back chat?
Yeah, thoughts about how he behaved and judgments and all these judgments I took as a means of comparing myself to him and wanted to be better than that, be the better parent for my children. So that was a competition mode in a way and a comparison mode, and yeah, my way of being perfect for the children.
Interesting. So it's actually very similar to what Sandy was describing with comparison and competition with the other new mothers.
Yes.
Sandy, is that your dog in the background?
Yes, I will give her a cookie. I will give in and be a
Yeah,
bad mother to my
give
dog, and I will give her a
give
cookie.
her a cookie. No, I was going to ask Sandy if she could maybe mute herself, but while you were talking. But what I was finding interesting within what you're saying, Barbara, was that leading it back to the childhood and the little girl, and because I have never considered the origin of this pattern coming from childhood in that way before, but it makes sense now that you say it, because there is this stereotypical, behavior from parents towards little girls, that they say, "Oh, you're so helpful. Oh, you're so perfect," and she never makes trouble, only the
Yeah.
boys. And so there is this, at least in some families, there is this stigmatization or idealization of little girls as actually being perfect, that they're sweet, they're helpful, and then it can literally go into our minds and become a neurosis, which is crazy, because the intent of the parents is, oh, but we show her we love her, and raise her to be a good person, but then she grows up to become this like perfection robot.
Yes, that's true, Anna. That's the
Hmm.
way I see it too. Yeah, I can really state that that has been the situation for me. Right. And also, I have a memory seeing my dad talking down on my mom, and I had this thought that I would be the better man for this woman. Strangely, I identified myself as a man or in that role for the woman, and I would be perfect in comparison to my dad in that situation. So I still have that memory inside of me, and I just came across that by writing out the pattern, and it's really fascinating how this had impressed upon me and had influenced me in my behavior. So that was, yeah, fascinating to get onto this point and see how I programmed myself by relating to it on some level.
So would you guys say that this is why particularly women go into this obsession with being perfect? Is it due to how we were treated and seen when we were children? What do you say, Sandy?
Yes, I would. I see a lot of similarities with Barbara, with her story. My parents as well. There was four of us, and I was considered one of the easier good kid. And my parents would always say, "We never have to worry about you, Sandy." You're never any trouble, Sandy. Thank God you're no trouble. We don't have to spend much money on you. Or we didn't spend much money on you. Now, later in life, they did have to. I got in a lot of financial trouble. And I did want to be perfect for my parents because there was turmoil in the house, and I did not want to feed into any more turmoil. I was very frightened as a young child, and then still frightened acting out a bit as a teenager, but I was very secretive about it. I saw how my siblings got caught, with everything, and I was very careful. I got caught a little bit, not much. So I felt that from my parents very much, some pressure to be the good daughter, and I wanted to be that for them. I wanted to. I didn't dislike them for it.
Yeah,
And then when I got married as well, I married a man who had an ex, and I felt insecure about that ex, and I thought about her often. I obsessed about it, and I worried, I fretted. I was always fussing around my husband, who was my ex-husband, trying too hard, trying to be perfect with him. Oh my God. Like I see it today still in my second marriage, but not as much. The first marriage, oh my God, I was obsessed with trying to be the perfect wife. And the harder I tried, the more I pushed him away.
interesting. So would you guys also say that this is a generational point? I mean, because you didn't know that your stories were so similar when we came here, but I know that you're actually quite the same age as well. So it could also be something that is within that specific generation of how little girls were seen.
Yeah. Would you want to answer the question, Anna?
Well, I was also looking at how, that it's not only, for example, a fear of not being perfect. It's also because it's like positive reinforcement. So via this feedback, oh, you're so good, you're so sweet, it creates like both an expectation, but also a positive self-identity. But then
Yeah,
it becomes, because that's not all you are. And like you were saying in
right.
your case, Sandy, you might have been quiet because you were actually afraid.
Hmm.
So then it becomes this inner conflict. What have you guys seen in relation to this? Like that it's like on one hand, a positive self-identification, and then on the other hand, that it's kind of like a inner prison that you're in.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, quickly, it could be a little bit generational, but probably more generations back. My mom, Barbara's mom, my grandma, her because yeah, no, lots of girls today could still have that kind of thing in them. I think.
Yeah,
I
depending on the
don't think
family.
it's that generation. Yeah, depending on how you're brought up. And then, what was your other part of your question, Anna? I'm sorry.
Well, I was looking at this point of how that when the parents say, "Oh, you're so quiet and she's so sweet," it also creates a good feeling, because your parents are projecting this nice, loving energy at you, and then
Hmm.
it creates a positive feeling. But then as you grow up and you have this positive self-definition, I'm the kind of person that helps everyone, it can also become an inner prison that you're very limited by.
Sorry, let me
It's
turn off
okay.
my phone.
It's real life TV. What can you do?
Mark? Hi, I have to
Send.
call you back. I'm on a live chat. I gotta call you back. Okay, bye.
Hello?
Sorry about that.
Are you still, Barbara, are you still here?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. So, but how about I ask you the question, Barbara, in terms of how this is, did you find that there was something that gave you a positive experience to look at yourself this way?
Yes, of course, I identified with being perfect and being special by playing that role. So found that being special for a person, for my mom, for my husband, and then later for the children, So it is indeed a big prison because you always have to act the role. There's no room for any own desires or needs or simply time for yourself because the people get used to it and they think something is terribly wrong if you don't function in that way. And so yeah, you always have to sort of explain yourself if you actually want to change this mode, and you start requiring more time for yourself. So when starting with Destiny, this was a real problem because I slipped out of this role to a big extent, and this wasn't understood at all. So yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
I could imagine that it is difficult because as you are a child, and this is something that is a label that's given to you by your parents, and basically, well, as it would be in most families, that we don't really see each other for who we are, but then instead, your value is being made out to be this character or this role of being the perfect little girl, or when you grow up, the perfect mother or the perfect sister, that it's difficult because it might be some of what you are, but of course it's not all you are. So, Sandy, what other consequences have you experienced in your life from living this pattern of trying to be perfect for everyone?
Yeah, I would say it's extremely limiting. The consequence is vast. It's like you end up not knowing who you are, not knowing kind of what really makes you feel good. Except there's I certainly know that I enjoy doing things with my family and for my family. Like that's absolutely. So that became very strong. But what else, and then, like Barbara said, it is difficult when you do a lot. Then it becomes an expectation that people have. And what can happen is it's easy to kind of see if a mother is not strong within themselves and knows themselves, has a life, and also has a family, how as the children become teenagers, that they become estranged and that there's a lot of problems unless you have some really, really strong communication skills, which a lot of time you don't. So what you have is reactions. So I would say that a consequence of always trying to be perfect is really a very limited sense of self. It's always reacting, 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 and being driven by fear, worry, anxiety, and this horrible sense that you're not good enough. Because how can you be good enough? There's always a lot of pressure from society, I would say, still. Even with working mothers, there's quite a bit of pressure from society image, right? So not only are you the wife and mother, but you're supposed to be sexy, and hubby's supposed to want to chunk your bones when he comes home. And sometimes you have small kids and stuff, and it's like that's a huge pressure. I'm sorry, it really is. A bunch of different hats.
I read some statistics that showed that even though males and females are now equally in the labor force, that or at least here in Scandinavia, that females also work full time now, they still do all of the housework. So it's like having a double job.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same in Germany or in Canada, but that's interesting. So it's like you have to not only be perfect there, but also, pursue a career and this personal development.
Mm-hmm.
So
add a couple little kids on there. Oh my
yes.
God.
Did you want to add something, Barbara?
Yeah, I agree. It's you have to juggle both worlds. It's really quite a strain. It's hard to manage. Yes.
Something that I've also found for myself in this pattern of, doing everything for everyone else, and basically where you feel like you're sacrificing yourself, and there is this feeling of kind of being Mother Teresa, this like I'm a hero almost, I'm sacrificing myself. but then it also can turn into resentment towards the other people because it feels like they are making me sacrifice myself. Is that something that you have also experienced? Not really. Maybe it's a different pattern.
Oh, you mean resentment?
Yeah, within this.
Sure, all the time. All the time. I've had that a lot. My son is growing. He's 23 years old. My daughter lives up north and works full time, but my son's still going to university. And he's a good kid. He's really great. He's really maturing a lot. But now and then he kind of slips back into a little disrespect. And you know, sometimes, and we're pretty good, but it happens now and then. And sometimes I'll have that inner chatter, which is like my thoughts going, right? And you know, my thoughts will be like, well, fuck him. How dare he? I gave my whole life. I dedicated everything. If it wasn't for him, I would have been. If I had no kids after my divorce, this would have happened. That would have happened. You know, so all this stuff can start in my head, and I see it, and I catch myself, and I pull myself back from that nonsense. And you know, a number of years ago, you know, when he was a teenager, and you know, there were some incidences, right, that got ugly between us and my daughter, sure.
Because it's like a point of self-disempowerment where, because you kind of brought yourself into this situation in a way, you know, and trying to be perfect, and then people create expectations towards you, and then you can't get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you're trying to get them to respect you, but it doesn't work because this is how they've always known you. So how do you then change that? That's a really good question that we'll be talking about here as we end the hangout a little bit later. But Barbara, I know that you've been working a tremendous amount of time with this point. You've been writing a lot about it. Can you share with us how you've utilized the Desteni I process and the Desteni tools to open up this entire pattern for yourself and gain the insights that you've gotten, where you, for example, you know, you realize that, oh my God, it goes all the way back to my childhood and my relationship with my brother?
Yeah, the Desteni I process was really supportive in seeing the individual points. It started with seeing that I had quite a reaction going with my younger daughter, where I wasn't able to continue on with that special feeling we had, and I had already projected that we would be sitting together and using some the time for a trip to the station with each other, and then something came up and she got upset, not with me, but she didn't want me to present a solution, but I somehow wanted to hang on to that feeling I have towards her and the expectations, and I came up with immense reactions and even tears, and I noticed that there was something really wrong, because it was just an overwhelming experience. And so I used the tools from the Desteni I process, um, especially writing out the timeline of the whole situation, which means I write out the thoughts and what I did and the emotions, and then what the other person said, and continues on from beginning to end of that whole situation. And then I applied self-forgiveness on the points that I was able to see. So I brought those points back to me. I saw where I reacted, what thoughts had come prior to the reaction, and how this whole event played out. And so I was really astonished that it was all inside of me, and I was just within a mirror cabinet, sort of, and the system that, the tools and the structure that the Desteni I process gave me or give me is really invaluable for realizing these individual points.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point with this empowerment that we're talking about, that for example, can bring up this resentment towards the people that we're sacrificing ourselves for, because there will be this, feeling that I cannot change this. This is who I am now. And then what you were explaining, Barbara, in terms of how you then brought the point back to yourself, meaning you looked at, well, what's my responsibility in this? How have I created this pattern? How have I defined myself as this perfect person? That in doing that, you're actually giving yourself the power back, which means that now you can then make a decision to change and decide, well, is this who I am going to continue to be? Is it actually supporting? And of course, we're not talking about that you're not, that you're then just going to be totally selfish and egotistical and, not help anyone. But it's a point of, that you stop doing it for that childhood pattern of wanting recognition and feeling special and like you were saying.
Yes.
Did you want to add something to that, Sandy?
Yeah, I'm really finding probably within taking Desteni I Process, I'm finding between the blogging, writing blogs, and using the tool of the timelines increasingly helpful. So taking a whole situation and really breaking it down moment to moment, literally, and looking at, yeah, like Barbara was saying, looking at the thought and then each reaction that I had, what that's doing for me, I think, is two things. One, it's helping me deal with things with my son, daughter, stepdaughter, and husband in the moment and in the greater picture. So sometimes I'm able to I'll look at the whole picture. So first, in the moment, I am able to now, I might react, I might not verbalize the reaction. Sometimes I'm able to not verbalize it, to stop with what I'm feeling and catch it and ask myself, and I'll slow down, what is it that you're going through? What are you feeling? Instead of lashing out and speaking, reacting really quickly with my words. But even if that's not the case, often now I'm able to, even if I do speak first, it's like, ooh, and then, sometimes the reactions can go back and forth. The emotions are building. I'm able to see that as it's happening much better now and catch myself and go, okay, let's just bring it down. My husband, I even ask him, please, can we bring it down? Because he knows I'm in this process. And it assists both of us. And so even though if it's one of my kids, I'm able to kind of see, okay, I'm going to stop reacting now. And as I do that, it helps the other person to bring down their reaction as well. I find if I can stay with it. And I can for me, there's a lot of fear and insecurity. And so I'm able to look at that now and through the timelines be more specific with myself. So I can go, oh, okay, this is your anger. Why were you angry? This is the reason that your anger came up, and this is where it came from. It came from you feeling a kind of F you attitude and in my superiority. And then I go into this character. I can identify, then I go into the bullying character after we're not together, and I go into guilt, and I guilt myself out. Then I go into, then I can see my patterns, how I'm behaving in much more detail. And then I even look and go, but where did this thing come from? Why did I? And then I can even see, I see, it came from my fear. Well, what's fear? My fear is my point of inferiority, and I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that a lot of my fear was inferiority because I have not felt confident to speak up because my husband and my children will leave me. They won't love me anymore. That is my ultimate fear, I suppose. And, I had that fear so strongly that I believe that was a large reason I got divorced from my children's father, which turns out fine. Everything's kind of good. It kind of worked out. So that's not a bad decision. But I see how I manifested my worst fear, is what my point. And now I remind myself of that, you know, who are you? You know, like, what is it that you want, Sandy? You know, what's, okay, even take it to the worst. And I'm able to be way more grounded in myself because I understand myself now. And, you know, take it to the point of, okay, but what about me? You know, I kind of go, what about me? You're so worried about them leaving you. I leave me all the time. You know, and I leave me. I've left me my whole life. You know, I made a decision. I'm not going to leave me anymore. Like, stop that. How about loving myself? If someone's going to reject me, then they're going to reject me. You know, well, I guess I'll have to deal with it. So, seeing the specificity of my reactions in the big picture and then in the moment, small picture, has been a huge help with these 4 relationships that I'm talking about, and they see that I'm less reactive and have said so.
So, ladies, we have a question from Carolyn, and she is asking, a while back we were having dinner together with my partner's family members. Among us were 2 toddlers, that's my child and her nephew, my child and her nephew. My child just couldn't sit still, and she's always active, even at the dinner table. At times she even wants to leave her chair and climb the table. All the while, the cousin, who is almost the same age, was quiet at her chair. Some people were making comments to her like, "Ooh, look at your cousin. He's so nice because he's seated quietly. You do the same." So they were saying that to Carolyn's child. And then she's asking, how would you suggest to direct such a point in a family setting? So basically, what I see in Carolyn's question is that she is facing exactly what we're talking about with how parents and adults will promote, you know, this be perfect, sit still behavior, and will sort of, you know, actually go in and compare children, because that's what they were doing in this situation. They were saying to the one child, look at the other child, he's so good, why can't you do the same? So what is your perspective on this? How about you, Barbara?
Well, once it's said, I wouldn't pick up the discussion about comparison at the table in front of the children, but I would concentrate on the child that is so active and ask what if he wants anything, or if he wants to run around and have a look at something, if the setting allows it, if it isn't in any way disruptive for the whole group, and maybe come to an agreement once I know what the child is missing and or needing, and then say, how about sitting here for maybe 10, 15, 1 minute, and then I'll do something with you, depending on what he wants to do. So, and then later on maybe discuss the point of comparison and say that it's not really supportive for the children.
Yeah, I really like that you give this perspective, Barbara, because what you're saying is that there's actually nothing wrong with the child. You have to look at the situation and what is it that the child needs. And from my perspective, I remember growing up having to be forced to sit still at the dinner table, and it was so boring. You know, it's not a child situation. It's this adult, how can you say, like an artificial adult situation where now we have to sit still and have nice conversations, but you have a little toddler and all they want to do is, you know, and maybe that other child is more calm and more comfortable just sitting, that's cool. But I would also say what Barbara is saying too, you know, look at that it doesn't have to necessarily be this way. Of course, in some situations you have to do it, like if you're out on a restaurant or something. But then you can, like Barbara said, look at how can you assist the child in that situation rather than, you know, wanting the child to be like the other child. Sandy, do you want to give a perspective as well on this question?
Yeah, I really like what Barbara said too, and you too, Anna. I definitely would say, I mean, children are different. They're individuals. They are born with certain attributes as well, certain you know, within their physiology, they are the way they are, for a large part, and some of it, of course, is the parenting. So I would look at what does the child need, and it's as best you can, just let go what any adult is saying, let that go, and focus on your child in a realistic way, you know, help them with their food, and then say to the other people, excuse us, you know, we're all done, scarf down your lunch, and jump up from the table, and what does the child need? And don't expect your child to sit there quietly. The other child, yeah, different person might really enjoy the quiet time and the adult voices, but generally that's not that common. Your child sounds normal.
Or maybe the child was tired, or whoever know, you know. How do you know? But it's that point but that's very typical, you know, because as parents, we don't learn how to effectively teach our children or communicate with them, and then it easily becomes these like bargaining and manipulating and sort of blackmailing the child to get it to behave. You know, your other little cousin is doing it, why don't you do it? And you can see here from what Barbara and Sandy has been describing in terms of how they were exposed to this as children, as even being, you know, the good child, that it can create a lot of unnecessary problems for the child growing up. So I mean, that's like an overall solution, is that as parents and in generally as families, that we have to learn how to communicate, and we have to support each other to find ways to communicate. So Sandy and Barbara, we're almost at the end of our hangout. So before we leave it here for today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the solutions that you have found to this pattern. Like, how have you been able to finally now step out of it, of trying to be perfect for everyone else? And also in that, what suggestions or tips do you have for anyone else, a woman or a man, who might be trapped in this pattern and who would like to find a way to stop it and transform it? Let's start with you, Barbara.
Well, I would suggest to write out the whole situation where you've I would notice that you're doing this, and try and find out what triggers the situation, what the exact pattern is at all, and maybe even try and find out what the fear is behind you doing or entering this pattern. And so writing is a really great tool for this, and then investigating and slowing yourself down to find out what is going on while you're doing it. So breathing has been really a great method, coming down to the speed of breath, and not just being overwhelmed within the pattern and doing one letting one reaction come up after the other. And so, yeah.
And how about
deciding to stop?
Sorry, go ahead.
And deciding to stop yourself once you're making the first steps of entering the pattern.
And how about for you, Sandy?
Yeah, I'll just kind of, you know, taking that a little step further. Barbara said deciding to stop, and that's actually really relevant and important. And in the deciding to stop, I have learned a lot as well from the Eqafe interviews. I would suggest those, the Atlantean series on emotions, the Reptilian series on leadership. And in one of them recently, I'm sorry, I don't remember right now, but they talked about courage. I think it's the Atlantean.
Yeah, it's the denial series.
Yes, denial series.
So we'll put a link to that in the description of this hangout.
You know, and talking about courage. So make the decision to stop participating in this, and then, you know, have some courage to say, I am going to be courageous. Decide for yourself what that means. For me today, in this moment, it means I'm not only going to stop this pattern by fighting with my husband about what wallpaper to pick. I am going to be courageous and not go into extremes. Instead, I'm going to help him and I look at this. We're going to be able to get through this. We're going to be able to find a solution that's good for both of us, or good for, yeah, but good for both of us. Instead of what I would usually do, or him, and that's like, just, we wouldn't walk away from each other. We weren't really like that, but just react too much, get too angry, fight, right? Shout. Sometimes you can get ugly. Or, big one for me, trying to be perfect, I cave. I just give in. And that beats down on your self-esteem over and over again. And I know I'm talking about wallpaper, but it could be many more important things. It beats down on you when you give in again and again. You're wrong, you're stupid. You see, you should not even try. You're so stupid. Don't, just... So making that decision with some courage, and instead it's like, let's look at reality. Let's look at what's really, do we have the time? Do we have the money? What's the best product? We're here now. Come on, we can do this. We can make this decision. I did this a couple hours ago, and it worked so well. And we were able to make a decision on something that for once was, my husband usually has a pattern of saying, he just goes, I gotta go. When he doesn't want to make a decision, that's it, I gotta go. And we got through it, and we made a decision. And for us, it was kind of a big decision.
Very cool.
And yeah, it was really cool. But having some courage after making that decision and change.
Okay, then I will pick up on that, and I will say to then have the courage to, when you have a tendency of living this pattern, to do as Sandy and Barbara have done, and to really go and investigate it for yourself in writing. And then, for example, come to the, like, what is it that sets all of this off, which could be, for example, the fear that everyone will leave me if I'm not perfect for them, because I'm not good enough in myself, so I have to, constantly do more, be more, be so that they will want to be with me. And then what has really supported me is to actually, in that moment, look at the worst case scenario. So in this situation, the worst case scenario would be, like you said, Sandy, them leaving me. Okay, they're leaving, I'm all alone. And then you see, okay, then who would I be? I would still be me. And it's not because that's something you would want to happen or that you should imagine it. It's more a point of seeing and realizing that even in that worst case scenario, you would still be here with yourself. You would still have to continue. So what would you do? Okay, that might not be the situation that you would want, but you would pick yourself up and you would continue your life. Exactly as you guys have, where you have divorced one time and then you've continued walking your life. And maybe Sandy or Barbara, that back then you would have never imagined that would be a possibility, because we create these like tremendous dependencies and think that, that would just be the worst thing ever. But then when you realize that, okay, but I would still be here, I wouldn't die, then you can stop that trying to be perfect, almost like you're buying security in a way, and start being more equal with your family or with your partner, and where you can decide in moments whether it's a cool time for you to help and assist or support, or whether this is a time where it would be nice for you to do something with yourself. So any final words that you would like to add?
Yeah, I'd like to say that it really takes a lot of courage to step out of patterns and out of relationships that aren't supportive anymore. And it has really been a great help for me to have already enrolled in the Desteni I Process course and write these things out, so I was able to slow myself down and just take it actually breath by breath, because I didn't have any major perspectives. I was really anxious about about managing everything on my own, and learning to breathe and just act and making the decision and following through. That was the main point that I had to see and actually yeah, do. And it was really great support, and also the buddy conversations or Skype talks we had. It was really fabulous. So I can really recommend that.
And we're actually, our next hangout next week is actually going to be on divorce. So if that's a topic that you're interested in, we're going to talk much more about that on next Thursday. Ladies, we have reached the end of our hangout. Thank you so much for being here. This was a very cool talk about this pattern that I'm sure that many, especially many women, will be able to relate to. As I said, we will be back next Thursday, and please don't forget to vote up this video and remember to subscribe to our channel so that you'll get the news of all the videos that we upload here in your YouTube feed. Tomorrow, Friday, we're going to continue with our weekly Desteni Movie Night series, where we are discussing movies from a Destonian perspective. And tomorrow it is the movie Memento. So there is a treat for you there if you enjoy the movie Memento. If not, then you have a couple of hours until tomorrow to watch it. And the hangout will be an hour later than this hangout. That's it. So Barbara and Sandy, thank you so much for being here. Until next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.